And how's your Cinco de Mayo going?
Yes, it is Cinco de Mayo. Hello. I got a funny little meme from my sister that had a jar of mayonnaise in a sink. I'm like, oh, very nice. Okay. I sent that to a couple people and did not write Cinco de Mayo underneath it. So hopefully they got it or they laughed anyway, just to be polite. So
That's funny. I usually know May 5th. Like I always forget Cinco de Mayo, and I always
yeah.
relate it to Star Wars because it's like Revenge of the 5th, like
Revenge.
Revenge of the
See, because I remember May the 4th be with you.
right,
Absolutely. Every year because
right.
of that Star Wars. And then also because it's my best friend's birthday. So anyway, but yeah, now I think I like that better actually, personally, just being a huge Star Wars fan. So
Did you watch Star Wars yesterday?
Revenge of the Fifth. What was that?
Did you watch Star Wars yesterday?
No, I didn't. I should have though. I can watch it tonight. I can do Revenge of the Sith tonight and watched a little bit of the Arlenauts. Have you ever
What's
watched
that?
Arlenauts?
Uh-uh.
These two guys, incredible. You'll die. You'll just die. These two guys, they're just called the Arlenauts, YouTube guys, and they've taken every movie and recut it with that's like I'm sure they're called the Arlenauts with different sound and voices and made completely different plot lines, a completely different movie out of all of them. It's incredible. You should check them out. They're amazing.
Oh my God. You should
So
send me the
maybe I'll
link
watch some
after
more
this.
Arlenauts tonight.
Yeah, no, that sounds fun. The only times I'm on YouTube is usually to watch tutorials on how to do something,
Mm-hmm.
or I found this guy. I think he has like a lot of exotic tarantulas, and he just
Yeah.
feeds them.
Yeah.
And
Watching it feed tarantulas. Yeah.
I hate spiders with a passion, and these tarantulas are very they give me the creeps, but it's kind
Yeah.
of addicting. It's weird.
It's a fact. You know what though? I love tarantulas. When I lived in Salt Lake, right by the Capitol, there was apparently they say tarantulas don't migrate, but I don't know because every September I saw just so many tarantulas every day and just saw them so fascinating. And they'd all go and sit in the middle of the road. And I'm like, you're waiting to die, dude. I'd get a stick and like try to like shoo him,
Yeah.
shoo them up. And then I'd go on my hike and come back and they'd be right back where I left them. Like, okay, you want to die. You want to die. That's it. That is totally up to you. So yeah, dude, I love tarantulas.
Yeah, I haven't seen any. I have like I've seen some like at the zoo, and I'm sure like at like
Yeah.
I don't know what do you call them, conventions of some sort.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But like I've never come across one like in person. Same thing with the
Well,
scorpion. That'd be my nightmare.
the scorpions, I don't know. They scare me a little more, I think, because they move so fast. But if you want to see a tarantula, just head up to like City Creek Canyon, just the canyon just above the Capitol in September. And you are more than likely to see a few
Seriously?
moving around. Yeah, they're moving around every September. It's weird. They're just there doing their little tarantula thing out in the sunlight in September. I don't know.
They're just doing spider stuff.
They're just doing spider stuff. They're just doing their little spider thing. Yeah, man.
Yeah, there's this guy. I think he's based out in like Indonesia or somewhere. But
Yeah. Is that who you're watching on YouTube?
yeah, yeah,
Is
it's
that the
the what's the YouTube channel? Exotic Layers or something like that.
Okay, cool.
And it's his commentary is what kills me. I mean, he's just so like his commentary gives these spiders so much personality, And he's like,
Yeah.
Miss Nightmare or something like that. And it's like this aggressive spider, and they're cute when they're like just chilling, but then like when they get all defensive and you see those like huge fangs,
Stand up.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, that's a no for me.
See, that's like Zfrank, is it Z Frank? True Facts. You ever watched him? He does like animal videos and just it's hilarious. His narration it sounds like it's the same thing. It's just so stinking funny. You just want to die. Find all these weird, creepy animals. You're like, where did you find these things? And then, yeah, just being funny. So now we have our work cut out for us. Now we have a whole evening full of
YouTube videos
YouTube videos that we need to catch up on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, and
man.
like I recently got stuck into the realm of TikTok. I was really reluctant on it at first, just because like the whole
Yeah.
privacy stuff.
Right, right, right.
But I know they use like a similar algorithm to Facebook and YouTube,
Yeah.
and so like now
Uh,
like I'll like watch one video before I go to bed, and it turns into like 10 videos of just nonsense.
oh, dude, you're just sucked into the black hole. It's like I get on Instagram
Yep.
and I have one Instagram that's just for nature porn. That's all I watch. I'm not friending anyone. I don't want to see food. I don't want to see kids. It's just nature porn. And on there, I can get stuck in, yeah, cat videos, cat and owl videos, cat and elephants. I don't know, cats and everything, cats and cucumbers. So, and I'm just like 2 hours later, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So no TikTok for me yet. I'm going to hold off as long as possible. I already have enough time wasters.
Yeah, hold off on it. It's damn, I miss Vine, honestly. That's the only reason I got it, because Vine was my thing back in the day
Yeah.
when
And
it was
then,
on my
yeah,
Twitter.
Vine. Yep. It's in the bin with Napster. Oh,
Yeah. Yep, good old
yep.
Napster. But well, this is fun. It's been a while since I've recorded, so this is kind of a nice warm up.
Oh,
So,
good. Right on. Yeah. Get back into the flow of it.
yeah. So let's have you introduce yourself so we could put a face to the voice and a voice to the face.
All right. Well, I should have my little author thing pulled up because I do so much better when I read that. But yes, I am an author primarily, poet as well, screenwriter, dabbled in filmmaking a little bit. But my main passion is as writer. I just recently signed in October with Vitsia Publishing, signed on for 8 novels, 4 of which are completed, thank God. So we have a few years to get those out to let me catch up with the other 8. So 4 of them will be in the same series, the Leader of Legend saga. And first of those books is called Wing and Nien, impossible to pronounce. Wing and Nien, 2 brothers, and that will be book 1, and that comes out in less than a week now, May 11th. Woohoo!
Ooh.
Is the first book that will come out. I'm stoked. Yeah,
That's exciting.
very excited. Yeah.
So like when you sign on to the publishing, when it's 8 books, it's like a contract, right? Saying like you will publish 8 books. Mm-hmm. Watch it be like George R.R. Martin, where like you take your sweet time doing it because they're that good.
I have heard that. I've listened to a few podcasts and stuff where he's talking, and I'm like, dang, yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. But I think, what was it? The first book came out in like 95 of his. And
oh, really? Wow.
I think it's like only like 6 or 7 books. So like the series tied it up, and like he still has like 3 books left that are unpublished. It's really weird.
that's part of the Game of Thrones world.
Uh-huh.
Oh, really? Oh, my heck.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, keep going, buddy. Keep plugging away so that it's not left to chance.
Oh my gosh. How long have you been writing for then?
I actually started writing little things at 5, believe it or not. I wrote my first short story at 9, started my first novel at 14, completed my first novel at 16. And actually, though, that one mutated into this one. So that's how old this first novel is. So the first version I wrote at 16 was 260 pages, and boom, thought it was done. And then over the years, it's slowly grown to over 700 pages now. So it's a beast. It's a beast at this point. But yeah, that's how long that one's been germinating in the mill. Yeah. And it's written sort of, it wasn't meant to be that way, but it's sort of Star Wars-ish, that it's actually going to turn out to be, book 1 is actually going to turn out to be book 3. So book 1 and book 2 are close together time-wise, but then books 3 and 4 will actually go to before book 1 and go into the lives of characters that are in book 1 and book 2. So
that's exciting.
It's cool. I'm excited.
I used to read a lot of novels back in, like, I don't know, high school, junior high, and all that.
Yeah.
And then college kind of ruined it because they're like, well, you have to read these other books that professors wrote.
Oh no. So
I
you were
know.
forced to read stuff that just
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, it aligns itself with the degree, but it really took me out of my element, to say the least. So I've been trying to get back into reading novels, because like I went to school for film, where screenwriting was my primary focus.
Okay. Yeah.
But I feel like as a writer, like it's never bad to like, I feel like it's bad to restrict yourself to one medium. So I'm trying to get back into like the prose and the poetry side of stuff. And it's the what do you call it? What do you even call it? The tense, the tense of the words is different because like with screenwriting, it's like present tense, but with prose, you can go like, any way you want.
Do it all the time. I've written 3 pages of script of screen, and I'm like, crap! I was writing it in novel form. I've done that so many times. It's so annoying. I'm like, shit. So I got to go back and just just do it all over again. Yeah, the 2 parts of your brain. I can see why most of the time novel writers do not transition into screenwriters, because like my first adaptation was of a feature-length screenplay, was one of my other novels, one of my novels that's completed. And I didn't want to leave anything out, Chaz. I'm like, come on. And then, I sent it into the Nichols Fellowship competition or whatever, you know what I mean? And, thank goodness the feedback wasn't harsh, but it was definitely, I had to keep cutting it down. It was 147 pages and they're like too long. And I had to just keep stripping out all of that delicious, fun stuff that was in the novel. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's such a switch in gears in your brain. And that's so funny. I love that you said that you did that, because I've done that so many times, and it's a pain. It's a pain. It's a pain in the butt. Absolutely. It really is.
Well, and so like I have just to get out of that habit, I tried to write prose a couple of weeks ago, but then I got really like focused on the formatting of it all, and so I had to like research, how do I format this to look like a book in Word or whatever, you know what I mean, like the manuscript. Right. Just that way I knew like how many pages I had, because it's screenplay. 1 page equals 1 minute roughly, right? It's like I was so stuck on like, how many pages is this going to be, instead of like letting the words flow. And it's weird because like reading Stephen King, or I'm reading a book right now called House of Leaves, and it's like a really like, it's like a book within a book within a book. It's really weird, but it's so descriptive, and I'm like sitting there getting lost in it, and I'm like, that felt nice to be able to like describe all that, because in screenplay you can't really describe a lot of stuff. Like,
yeah, no, you can't. And it's just, yeah, it is. It's hard. I still definitely prefer novel writing, because, the script writing is hard, because I want to put all of that detail in there. And then I'm like, but I got to describe it as an action as much as possible. And I'm very internal. You know what I mean? It's all about what's happening in the mind. And then I need to exteriorize that and make it an action. And I'm like, wow. So yeah, definitely. I love that you said that it's good to do different forms, because it stretches your brain for sure. It makes you read. Because when I'm writing, I'm just in the flow. I'm not thinking about anything. Right. I'm in the zone. I'm writing. I'm doing my thing, but when I do some of these other ones, then yeah, I got to turn the other part of my brain on and really think about what I'm doing. Yeah.
So I'm thinking is such a creative killer. Like,
no, it is. Oh my God. It is. No, it is. Absolutely. I think that you just nailed it. Cause I was just thinking, I'm like, you know what? No, I don't. When I'm writing a screenplay, I just write. But then I turn on my brain when I go back and edit. Yep. And I fix all of those little things, because you're absolutely right. Thinking is a killer. People ask me all the time, my whole life, they're like, so do you plot out your books? Do you think about it? I was like, actually, no, I've never plotted a character.
Yes.
I've never thought it out. I've never, they're like, you need to plan the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then you need to write this way and this way and this way. And I was like, well, I guess I am just fucked then, aren't I? Because that's not how I work, even a little bit. And so the one writing class that I took, I left after like a week. I'm like, no, if this is how it's supposed to work, then I'm just screwed because that's not how I work at all. And so, yeah, I have never thought about a novel. It just comes to me like an image and a download. And if I sit down and put my hands on the keyboard and start to write, it just comes.
Oh my God. Yes.
It just comes. I don't ever think about it. I don't think about how to make a character. To me, that's almost sacrilege. I feel like they're already real people and I'm just trying to not get in the way. I'm trying not to make them something that they're not. I'm just trying to write as true to them as I can get, coming through this filter. Does that all make sense, Chaz?
That makes perfect sense because even in screenwriting, even people plot out like all these plot points that need to happen and all this stuff. And for the life of me, whenever I try that, I always get stuck. It's just like, this isn't fucking flowing. It's not working. And then I'll be like in a shower or just about to sleep or doing whatever else. And then something like an image will pop in the mind and it bridges the issue. Right. And it's like, I gotta write that down. And I totally forget about the character stuff. And I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this. Like when you write something for so long and it takes like I don't know, a couple of years to finish, when you read the first pages compared to like the ending is where exactly it needs to be. Right. And the first pages are like you're exploring and stuff. And like there's always stuff to refine. But like it's interesting to see where you were like consciously, like when you first got the idea compared to like where the story wanted to go afterward. And after these characters were like, hey, this is actually who I am. This is where you need to go. Stop being God and, ruining my life.
Trying to manipulate everything.
Yeah.
Oh, my heck. I love that you said that because that is exactly it. There's been so many times if I'm writing along and I'm going and I'm like, okay, I don't have any idea where this goes next. And I can get into that God thing of like, I'm going to decide, I'm going to figure out in my mind where this goes and I'm going to make it go that way. Guess what? Never works.
Yeah.
Fails every time. And then if I just let it go, boom, set it aside, work on something else. It's just happens exactly like you said. That inspiration comes in later, this little image, and I'm like, oh, that's what happened. And it bridges the gap.
Yep.
And I'm so freaking excited. I ran and grab my laptop and, start typing away. Because I love that you said that. That's why I think we need to talk. Artists need to talk to artists because all these experts that say this is how you should do something, where the hell did they get that?
I know, right?
Because you know what? I think as my little brain, I'm like, well, I guess that's how it works for everyone. So I'm just going to be quiet over here and not tell anyone how it works for me because apparently that's wrong. But then when I talk to other artists, like you just said, that inspiration comes when you're in the shower. It comes when you're driving down the road and it fixes that issue for you. It's just like, boom. Did we lose?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did we lose you?
Just.
Oh, now I lost you again.
Weird. I think, hold on. I'm going to reset my mic. You can hear me on Hero, right?
Yeah. No, I can.
Okay. I'm using my webcam mic now. Hold on. I'm going to restart my.
Oh, no worries.
Mic.
And hit record. I hit the podcast and wait. I forgot to hit record. And I was like, oh shit, how far into this are we? There's no way we'll get it back. It's gone.
Oh no. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yes. No. Yep. I can hear you.
Weird. I think I just updated my computer too, and I was having issues with like this update. Yeah. And so I had to like Google on Windows little thing and try all these different stuff. And it was like the littlest thing that finally fixed it. And I'm just
finally fixed it. Oh, whew.
I know. And I've been getting the habit because I don't come on here. I haven't come on here as often as I should, like on my computer. So
right.
I always have to check for updates before I even do anything big because there's driver updates. And it's just like, okay, I want this to run as smoothly as possible.
Yep. There'll usually always be one little gremlin in there.
Yeah.
Hiding from you. Well, me trying to pay attention to the green dot.
What green dot? On your laptop?
Looking at the camera instead of looking at the person. And I was like, I need to get a little set of eyes but it's just so unnatural. And you, of course, you would naturally look at the being that you're talking to.
Right.
So it's been the hardest thing. I'm sure people watching these things is just like, oh my God, sit still and look at one spot.
Oh, I know.
It's
I don't
a
know.
nightmare.
It's always weird staring at this talking.
Yeah. See,
because like, I mean, if you're talking to like if you're doing vlogs or whatever, or you're presenting something, totally makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Especially because like, I don't know, like if you're like presented an award on stage and the lights are on you, you can't see anybody anyway, as much as you want to.
Right.
So you just stare off into space. But I'm with you. I'm like, I just stare at my computer screen. I'm talking to people.
I know, it's so hard. I'm like, I've seen people put like little pictures up here. You know what I mean? Like, so they're staring at like two eyes. I need to get like two little alien heads or something and just set them there. And just, do you act? Do you act too?
Do I act? No, I don't.
Yeah.
The only times I've acted is like a small cameo in my own stuff.
Yeah.
But it's usually like when we don't have people to do that. Yeah. And so it's just like, I guess.
Well, I guess it's me. Yeah. Because I hate being on camera and looking at that little thing. I see actors and they look at that camera and they just come alive. Me, I look at it and I'm like, ugh.
I get so self-conscious on it.
Yeah, no, me too. And I can't watch myself. You know what I mean? We do it. And if like afterwards, if I listen to this, I'll be listening in my car. Yep. So I can just hear us, but I can't because same thing.
Well, that's the thing too. So when I started this podcast, it was supposed to be in-person stuff. And then I got nine episodes in, and then the COVID hit, and I'm like, I have to kind of adapt, I guess. Yep. So until everything's like chilled out, I guess.
Right. Yep.
I guess I'll just use this, and
here we are, shifting our eyeballs between the camera and each other.
Yep.
We're like, just listen on Spotify. If it's throwing you off, just listen on Spotify, and
that's how I do it. Even though, interesting enough, me posting these videos on my YouTube channel has got my YouTube channel more attention, which is weird because like I never thought about utilizing YouTube that much unless it was for film stuff specifically. But
are you putting this on the same channel that you have your film stuff on YouTube, or did you do a different channel for the?
No, I do it on my film stuff. But what I've done though is I've created separate playlists, and on my website I've actually figured out how to embed a playlist so on videos automatically uploaded on my website too.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and so it's like I could work around it and not have to create different emails for different stuff.
Right. Yeah. Hallelujah. The more you can pare that down and get like 5 things spider webbing out or more off a couple button pushes, because it's so much work. Man.
Oh, it's so much work, especially
it's a full-time job, man.
It is, especially when you have all these social media accounts and you're like, look, I'm on everything. Like, so it be what it be.
Yep, and it's very hard to keep all of them fed because they really are just like hungry beasts, It
is
fed every day. Yeah.
Well, and like, I don't know. After watching, there's a documentary on Facebook. I forgot what it was even called. It came out last year on Netflix, but what was it even called? That's going to bug me. It talked about like the privacy of Facebook even, and like the algorithm it uses. And like, it got me so invested into like, I just want to delete it. Like if I wasn't in the creative field, I would not have a Facebook,
Oh, I said that just yesterday to someone. I'm like, if I wasn't in the creative field and this wasn't the way to get out the work, I would probably delete everything myself. And just keep my nature porn on Instagram so I can scroll through squirrels and waterfalls, But I hear you. It's the more I know about it, I finally had to pull the plug on because it was kind of, creepy and overwhelming. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Just being in the verse, all my info's out there anyway. So here we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing too is like the discourse with politics and all like everything in the world on social media is just so messy anyway, because there's a lot of people that are really cool people, but then the second they disagree with you or you disagree with them, it's like there's automatically fighting when in real life you wouldn't be fighting. You'd be like, all right, dude, whatever. Let's still be friends. You know what I mean?
No, you're so true. Because I'm looking at this and I've been like, this is a tiny little microcosm example of that. There's 5 of us girlfriends that have been really good friends for like 10 years. Each one of the 5 of us is on in a slightly different place, politically, apolitically, spiritually, all of the things. But guess what? We don't fight. You know what I mean? We have learned to respect each other where each one of us is at. On the points that we vehemently disagree, we just let it go. You know what I mean? And that is what we do when you're face to face with someone and you love someone. You can respect them and their choices and where they're at above having to be right. But there's no incentive to do that when you're a faceless being on the jungle web. You can just be as nasty and horrible as you want to be, and there's no repercussions, and you don't have to look that person in the eye and see their soul and understand why they make the decisions that they make, and help them understand why you make the decisions you make. And yeah, it's been a really great, like spiritual and mental and emotional learning curve. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to ruin a friendship or your family or whatever over these points, when at the end of the day, if you're freaking dying, does that matter? You're going to want to tell them you love them. You're going to want to hold them. You're going to want to say goodbye. You know what I mean? None of that shit. So I'm like, if none of that shit matters when you're on your deathbed, then I don't think any of that shit should matter. Well, it matters, but it shouldn't matter the most. It shouldn't be the most important thing, I think, So anyway, you nailed it. When you're in person, you learn how to respect each other and get along, Yeah.
You do, yeah. And I think it's also kind of in the same vein of, I think these platforms kind of made it feel like all of our opinions matter, when in reality our opinions don't matter. And as much as that sucks to admit, in the end, our opinions will never matter as much as we want them to. And it's the joy of seeing people react to a status or to a point of view that makes us want to keep posting.
Right.
But see, right. And like you said, letting go of those differences, it's probably letting go as a human being is probably like one of the hardest things you can do, right? Because when you don't let go, you get stuck on it, and there's like this awareness that like it just aggravates you more.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much growth to letting go, and I think it's just one of those things that we gotta push through.
Yeah, buddy, it's so true that letting go, and it's an everyday. It's not a one-time thing. It's an everyday. Sometimes it's a moment-to-moment thing.
It is,
yeah. Letting go, and I'm still letting go because it's still coming up, But yeah, it makes for a strong spirit. You know what I mean? To be a little more permeable, perhaps on the outside, and let things, and then be stronger on the inside. That this is, what was that? Classic Buddha. Attachment leads to suffering, and attachment to an opinion. Oh, so much suffering. You know what I mean? So much suffering. I'm like, just wow. So, and we've all gotten a heavy dose of that, even more so, the past year and a half of how attached we are, how identified we are with our opinions. And and I love that, you're so right. I mean, when it's all said and done, it's how someone made me feel that mattered, and how I maybe made someone else feel. It wasn't my opinion on something, or my, being right or being wrong. It's how I made that person feel, and how they made me feel is really all I'll remember. I'll forget all the rest of the stuff, what I mean? But we don't forget how somebody made us feel.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I've definitely been on the other end of being a complete asshole on social media.
But we all have, dude. We all have them like, okay, tomorrow's another day. Let's, but they're dwelling, depending on what kind of brain you have, you can dwell on something for a while and really stew before you finally am like, oh, okay, I have had enough. I feel like a shithead. I was an asshole, but I'm going to let that go, you know? Yeah, but it's hard, man.
It is hard. And I mean, there's people I've blocked because like you said, yeah, it's funny because like when we were emailing, you brought up the fact that we met each other at a film festival a couple years ago.
That was a funny picture that Shane sent me. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know Chaz. I mean, I think that was the only time I met you in person was that night. But
yeah, and I don't remember. I was there with somebody because that year I was there for one of my screenplays, but I don't remember who.
Yeah,
what do you call it? Just hung on to being like,
I've never been here. Who your buddy was that night. Yeah.
I think it was Landon, if I'm not mistaken. But I've met so many cool people through like the festival and just in the film environment. Mm-hmm. But then, you know, last year and a half, I've blocked so many people, and it was just out of like a knee-jerk reaction of like, fuck you, I'm done, you know, like, ugh. And now I'm like, dude, I kind of want to work with these people again. But like, also, if I unblock them, they're going to see that I unfriended them to some degree. I'm like, it's going to make it more awkward. Yeah.
That's why everybody's been doing the sneaky, like, I could unfollow, but I never knew that was the thing. You could unfollow without unfriending or whatever. And I was like, oh, what a sneaky little thing. And then I'm like, but then do they know? Like, they'll definitely know, I guess, if you unfriended or blocked. I guess they'll know if you show back up again.
On the suggested friends, it's like, whoa, why'd you delete me, you know?
That was I don't know, that was a mistake.
Let bygones be bygones.
50, I can plead my Gen X, you know what I mean? I can plead. I don't know what the hell I'm doing more than half the time, which is probably, you may not be able to get away with that, but I could probably get away with that. Man.
It's a thing.
Terrible.
But I don't know, it's just one of those things, you know, like you gotta face the consequences of being knee-jerk reaction-y. What's that word? Impulsive. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. Impulsive. Yeah. Yep. But passionate.
The unfollow tool is really nice, but then I realized there's a lot of people who don't like my stuff anymore, and I don't like their stuff. I'm like, there's probably a mutual following somewhere.
Yeah, you're like, well, you know, I have a saying, energy never flows in only one direction. So it's like, if it stopped working for you, it has probably stopped working for the other person too. So don't don't beat yourself up too bad, whether it's, you know, a Facebook thing or a relationship, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, if it stopped working for one, it's probably stopped working for the other one, but maybe they're just hanging on a little too, a little too hard.
Going back to that film festival real quick though, you and Shane were in there for your Wolf short film, right? Yeah.
So what had happened there, Chaz? I'm trying to remember. I know I was there for maybe the feature-length screenplay and then the short 20-minute Wolves.
Okay.
So the feature-length screenplay of that, we shot just one part of it, and that became the Wolves. So I think I had two things. I think I had the screenplay, and I could be wrong. If Shane watches this, he could be going Shytei, but he knows that I can't remember past yesterday. So, but I think it was for the short film, The Wolves, and then for my feature length original screenplay, of The Wolves. That was there.
Was that your first festival experience with like a screenplay?
I think so. Yeah. And then there was another one that we entered it in. I don't know. I think we got like 26, you know, we were just grabbing laurels left and right for that little sucker. And then I'm looking over because I have a little screenwriter, Holly Shorts. So we did get to go to Hollywood for that same one, for Holly Shorts is what it was called, Holly Short Screen Festival. So Chaz, that was so fun. I'm walking around holding a little, you know what, if I could get it without pulling my laptop over. Yeah. So I got this fun little thing.
Oh, that's fun.
And it was so fun to wear this little like screenwriter, you know what I mean, badge around. It was great. So yeah, that was fun. So we got to go to Hollywood. And I lived in Hollywood for a couple of years. I moved out there in 93 from New Orleans to make film. And never got anywhere, just starved to death. We were living in the Hollywood Tower, built by John Wayne. It was a fun little tidbit. During that last big earthquake they had. And we were getting nowhere, and we were eating like once a day. And we were like, okay, forget this. And I went and sold Birkenstocks in Century City. And my husband at the time and his identical twin went and worked for a television company in Beverly Hills. It was funny. Anyway, we were there for 3 years. Never made it anywhere with film at that time. I did meet some people, and I was offered to be a writer on like a cartoon. And it was one of those moments, you don't get these very often, but it was one of those moments where I knew that I was at a crossroads, like a huge crossroads. I mean, you can tell you when you make little decisions in your life, but this was massive. I knew, and I had almost like a precog moment of, I'm like, if I can take this job. And I knew that I would stay in LA and have an okay writing career, writing for other people.
Right.
And then I saw the other path that was writing my own stuff, and we're not so sure about how that's going to go. And I slept on it for a couple nights. And then I'm like, you know what? I could still see that in my brain so vividly, that I was like basically the age I'm at now. And I have had a great career, but I've spent my whole life writing other people's stories. And that was just heartbreaking to me. And so I'm like, no. And I decided right then, I'm like, I don't care if I am poor and broke and working shitty jobs the rest of my life, I will write my own stuff, because no one else can write it. No one else can in the world. There's 1,000 people that could do all of these little jobs, I've done to get by over the years, but, and could even write for, other people. But I'm like, no one can write the stories that I have in me to write. If I don't do it, no one's going to. And I didn't want to have that regret of looking back 30 years later and like, shit, I have a great career. I have a house. I have some cash. I have a reputation, but I have 20 unfinished novels in my writing laptop. And that I could live with not having creature comforts, but I could never live without writing these stories that I came here to write. So I made that decision. I told them no. And I was 23 or 24 at the time. And a friend once told me, believe it or not, she is a really good friend. But she said, you are the poster child for why not to follow your dreams. I'm like, shit. Because I'm, finished my first novel at 16, tried for 12 years to get an agent, a publisher, anything. You know what I mean? Not only one in all that time, only one publisher actually read the work. Rejection after rejection, just off of query letters. You know what I mean? And the one that finally read it and made it through all 4 of his like pre-screen readers, made it to him, the owner of the company. And he read it and did a soft pass because he said he didn't know how to market it. And I was like, wasn't that your job? How do you not know how to market it? But that's been the problem with my writing all along, is no one can figure out a genre. I myself didn't know what to tell people when they said, "Oh, well, you're a novelist. What genre?" And I was like, ah. So, I never knew and then it was last September. I really pulled back the last like 7 years of even querying agents, because I'm like, this is ridiculous. It just is, I would send out little things here and there and then just forget about it. You know what I mean? Because it was easier to just forget that I even sent out the query letter. And then I don't even remember how I came across this website. Because like I said, I wasn't actively looking for an agent or a publisher or anything. I just self-published on Amazon and just let them all sit there and go absolutely nowhere because I'm a shitty marketer. And then I got this email back that said, I would love to talk to you. I love your work. And I was like, what? Wait, who was this? You know what I mean? Because like I said, I just tried to forget about it because don't attach, just let it go. And I talked to him, and it was just the perfect fit. And I was like, this is like an absolute miracle. You know what I mean? I've been waiting for this moment my whole life, because I've always felt so humiliated when people are like, oh, you're an author? Are you published? Asked that for 25 years, right? And then like stab in my heart every single time. I'm like, why do I feel like such a failure? If you're in like an indie person in the music field, well, that just makes you a badass. But in the writer world, if you're not a published author, everybody's like, they're all like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you self-published through Amazon. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm sorry for you. And I was like, oh, shit. So anyway, it was a beautiful thing to, finally have that happen and have it be the right fit, because he knows it's visionary fiction is the genre I write in, and he knows exactly what to do with it. And, was so excited, and I'm thrilled. I'm just over the moon to finally find the right publisher. And he didn't tell me to cut out 250 pages. You know what I mean? He didn't tell me to retitle it and all of this stuff, the nightmare stories I've heard. And I've been through a couple of those myself. So yeah, it actually, Chaz, that reminds me, I was going to bring up, what is that? Chaz Evans talks with fellow artists about the highs and lows that come with pursuing art as a passion.
Yep.
I fell in love with that. I don't know where, did you just download that out of the ether? Because that is the most perfect, like, I don't know if it's necessarily a mission statement, but you know what I mean? It's so perfect.
Well, I don't know, because I've wanted to start a podcast for, I don't know, a while, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I try to do like solo podcasts, and those are fucking hard. I always feel like I don't have enough interesting stuff to say. So I'm like, who the fuck would even want to listen to me like rant about just random stuff? And then also possibly get myself in trouble because I don't really have a filter, right? So it's just like, but then I've always loved talking to people and getting to know them. And I'm like, well, the people I relate to the most are artists in a way. Mm-hmm. So I was actually talking to my mom about it, and she helped me come up with the podcast name. I was like sending her stuff like of thoughts and.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so like, it was like over and under, like, overexposed, underexposed, artist exposed. So the highs and lows. So it kind of blended after that. And so far it's gone well, I think. So in a way it was, I don't know, just kind of fell into place. But I've thought about it a little bit more too. So my primary passion is writing as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like film is my strongest medium for that. In a lot of areas, which is like screenwriting and all that. But I also love books and novels and like poetry, so it's like, okay, well, even though film might be my strong suit, there are other options I can explore. But like in junior high and high school, I think it was junior high, when they're like, what career do you want to go into? You have to start thinking about that,
Yeah.
The options I always fell on was either like a TV or not a TV broadcaster, but like a radio host, a TV or a camera guy or something else. But like now looking back on it, I'm like, well, I'm kind of doing all that. So it's
which is so cool, huh?
I know, right? And it's just like you don't really think about that unless you like, it was like total shower thought where I'm like, oh shit, an epiphany.
Isn't that wild? I swear we have no perspective on our lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we have, like you said, those shower moments, and we're like, oh my God, yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am doing that. And not only that, I'm doing all of it. And all of a sudden you see all these puzzle pieces. It's like seeing yourself outside of yourself for a minute. Yeah. That's such a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It really is.
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like we never give ourselves credit for our progress that we have made.
For the good stuff.
For the good stuff. Yeah. And I think it's because I had this thought the other day too, is when I think too often we're kind of like on auto drive where we're just like waking up, doing our own thing, working towards something, right? But it's never like with intent or focus. It's just eventually we'll get there. But the moments that you actually have a quiet moment for yourself and, kind of be in the moment, because you could be in the moment, but also like not be in the moment at the same time. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yep.
And so when you're in the moment, you start connecting, like realizing everybody's on their own little path. Like in this present moment, somebody is doing something, right? And it's never like a direct path. Everybody crisscrosses, like everybody has shortcomings. And like, even like with yourself, you've tried so long to get somebody to read your book and to market it. And you went through all these hoops, and you eventually, it sounds like you've lost hope. And you're like, fuck it, I'll just send query letter, like forget about it. Right.
Right.
And then like it fell into place, and you're like, holy shit. And now let me ask you a question then. Thinking back onto that, like, do you see how all the puzzle pieces kind of fit into your own life? Like why those decisions were made, and exactly how there's no wrong decisions. There's only decisions that stop us from experiencing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Beautifully put. I even had, it was a while back, I think I was 45, and I had the impression that I will be, I'm not sure which way it came to me, but it was either you will not be published until you're 50 or you will be published when you turn 50. And my 45-year-old self was not pleased with that, because I'd already been working very hard for about, 25, 30 years.
Right.
So I was like, no. But, that intuition was always there. And on the outside, I would doubt it, and I would try to push kind of back to that God thing you were talking about when we're writing. It's like, I'm going to try and make this happen, but intuitively in my heart, there was always this little seed of, what you intuited, and you know what you felt, and that's kind of been there all along. And it's like you said, you can look back and you can see, like when I look back on that point in Hollywood, when I told them no and decided to write my own stuff. I could have doubted that decision 1,000 times when I'm, thinking that I'm the age I'm at and I should have these creature comforts at this point, but to look back and see that every decision I made it's almost like there are marks that you could miss, and then there are marks that you will never miss no matter how hard you try. So there are marks that you will hit, you know what I mean, in your life, no matter how you mess up. I mean, how funny is it that my first husband was Shane, and then now I've been with Shane Morrison for 5 years. Both were in film, moved to Hollywood, It's almost like the universe is just saying there are certain marks that you can't miss, you know what I mean? And there are other things that you can pull in or let go of. But there are other things that, when you look at the big picture, and I don't know, some people may not like that. I see it more as destiny than fate. I see it more as something that I decided for myself before I was even born, that I'm like, these will be the things that I will do. And these will be the people that I made agreements with that I will meet in my lifetime for different reasons that we all have, that there's going to be a synergy there. But there are a lot of other spots that are more fluid. You know what I mean? It's like it could come and go. It could change a little bit, but, we'll eventually all fall into place if you just hold on long enough.
That's the key.
Oh, right. Oh my gosh, it so is. Yeah, but what you said, when you're in your podcast tagline, that the sacrifices you make, the decisions you make. I've worked jobs my whole life that will allow me to write. Every decision I've made in my entire life, it pivots around the axis of, will it let me write? Will it give me the time and the space to be able to write? Because nothing else matters to me more than that. Having a house, having a big bank account, having, all of these creature comforts, that if I'd gotten a real job and just stuck with it for 30 years, I'd be in a really good place right now. You know what I mean? I'd have the 401k, I'd have the whole thing. But I'm like, I can't work a corporate job or any kind of job that's a 9 to 5. lifetime thing and just write once in a while on the weekends. I'm like, no, I will spend my entire life writing as much as possible, even if I never get published and more than 5 people, no more than 5 people ever read my words. Because the only regret I would have would be not having spent my life writing. So, but it's been, it's always been a choice, and it's been hard. It's been really hard. You know what I mean? Not having the things that you think, you should have at a certain age or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's been totally worth it. And yeah, no regrets. So that's something.
So what do you think, like, I mean, obviously it's the passion that keeps you wanting to write, but like, what exactly sparks that? Like, what's the thing about writing that you find the most exhilarating?
It's that flow state, I think, I mean, when you sit down and 4 hours goes by and it feels like 10 minutes and you resurface and you're like, wow, that was amazing,
Yeah.
and meeting these people has been possibly the greatest joy of my life. These people that I write about, meeting them, living with them, you know what I mean? Following them. I am as surprised by their journey, you know what I mean? When I write it, that it's everything. A long time ago, somebody was like, oh, that's a nice hobby, which was a worse stab in my heart than are you published? You know what I mean? Way worse. I'm like, and my first instinctual reply was, if oxygen is a hobby, then yeah, writing is a hobby for me. And a friend at the time was like, well, if you're not breathing, nothing else matters. And I was like, you understand, you got it. Writing that's just what I was born to do. I wasn't even really sure what I was doing when I was 13 or 14. I just knew that this was in my head and I had to write it down. And I was just writing, filling up college lined reams, no computers, no laptops. There was my mom had an old typewriter that, what do you call that, with the that stand on the metal legs, the old type, ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk. My mom had one of those and typed up my first novel my first short story on one of those. And then by the time the first novel was done, they had an electric typewriter. That was magnificent. But yeah, Chaz, so it's just been, just being able to write, and the stories just come to me. It feels more like I'm remembering other worlds or possibly other lives.
Yeah.
One or the other, or maybe a mixture of both. But it definitely, one novel started from a dream, but the rest of them have been just downloads when I've been awake. I'll just see an image, a flash of something, and I'm like, oh, boom. And as soon as I sit down and start to write about it, it just starts to unfold like a movie in my mind. And I'm just writing down what I see. So that makes it easy. I never had to come up with anything. it just kind of downloads, and then we just kind of start writing and go for it. So yeah.
Well, I feel like forcing stuff out is more damaging than just allowing it.
Than just being a conduit for it. Trying to do that forcing. Yeah, never works. It's so fun talking to you, another intuitive being that understands that difference. Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It is huge. And I don't know, because like in high school, so English and I want to say history, and I guess some of the computer film photography stuff. Those are like my main classes I cared about the most.
Yep.
And my English class, I even took a creative writing class with my English teacher, and I would purposely, like, all these dark stories would just come to me. I'm like, screw it, let's see where it goes. And I'm like 17,
we're gonna go for it.
16. Yeah, I want to see how dark this can go.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was even like, is my teacher going to turn this into like the principal? like,
Is this going to get me in trouble? Are they going to think I'm a troubled child?
Yeah. And my mom's like, they're going to think you're like abused. Like they're going to think you're abused when they read these. I'm like, nah, it's just me being a troll because, you know, being in Utah, there's like a lot of different cultural differences. I just want to see like how far I could push.
How far can I push this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people are just born to just push it. They're like, you know what is such the norm? And it feels like it's so shoved down your throat that you're like, I'm going to push against that. And I'm going to see how far I can push back before I can push against that before I get in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we had to write a short story on a nursery rhyme. And I chose Humpty Dumpty, but it was like this guy committing suicide after like his sister committed suicide. And he's just falling off a building. And like the last thoughts he had were like the nursery rhyme his mom read to him as a little child, which was Humpty Dumpty.
Perfect, dude. Oh, that's awesome. That's
I wonder if
great.
I still have that. I hope I still have it. I don't like deleting files regardless if they're finished or not. Even if it's like one sentence, I'm like, that will come in handy one day.
You're like, there could very possibly be a purpose for that somewhere down the line. Do not delete that. And you think you'll remember that one line? No, you don't. Nope. No. Oh no, it's gone. It's freaking so gone. Yeah. So good for you for keeping it down. That's funny. I saw that you interviewed J.R. Curtis.
Yeah, J.R. Curtis, yeah.
Speaking of dark, so I'm like, I wonder if he did that shit when he was in school. I'm like, how both you and him, how your parents did not get a call saying, wonder if your child might a little on the macabre side, might be wanting to commit suicide or
yeah.
Oh God, get you in trouble.
Oh yeah, I was always concerned, but actually there was my creative writing teacher actually submitted their works to like poetry stuff or short story stuff. Yeah, and some of the stuff got published in like whatever stuff that she sent them out to. And I thought it was really cool. But
dude, you published as a kid, man. Look at you.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the time I was like, don't do that. Like, don't embarrass me. Like, nobody needs to know that I write. For whatever reason, I was always ashamed to admit that I like to write. Like back in the day.
You're a writer. Yeah.
Yeah. But the more you embrace it, the more easier it comes, I guess.
That's so crazy. Why would there be like a stigma for boys? That's interesting because that's never occurred to me as a young writer. You know what I mean? That there would be any stigma around writing being a girl versus being a boy, especially if you write like poetry or something. You know what I mean? I could see boys wanting to hide that. You know what I mean? More than a girl. A girl would just be dismissed of, oh, she's just writing about unicorns and rainbows. But as a boy, that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the poetry, because I took a poetry class in college just for a credit. Mm-hmm. And one of my classmates who's actually a good friend of mine now. Yeah. He wrote a poem about taking a shit. And he made it sound so classy. And I was like, dude, I wonder if anybody's going to know that this is actually taking a shit. And to this day, I still reflect on that. I'm just like, the creativity you can do, to mask something like, I don't know. I thought it was just incredibly funny.
You should publish that. You know how when you go into Google and you see all these things, what does this song mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. People do it with that poem. What was he meaning? He was talking about taking a crap, dude. Yeah. That's what that meant.
There's a TikToker who is actually taking apart nursery rhymes now.
Yeah.
And she's like talking to herself where it's like, she's like comes in the room singing like Jack and Jill went up the hill. And then it cuts to her other self, right? Being serious. She's like, you shouldn't sing that. And she's like, well, why? Do you know what it's about? There's like dramatic music playing.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Those nursery rhymes, they are dark.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's like being a kid. I grew up Mormon and so naive. Oh my goodness. I had no idea. I'd be singing along to all these songs. Had no idea they were about sex and drugs. None whatsoever. See, I could read the poo poem, would have had absolutely no idea what it was really about. You know what I mean? I was just so, just no idea that it was about, you know what I mean? And that was also though, like you hiding your feeling like couldn't really talk about your poetry or say that you were a writer or whatever. I hid my writing until I was in my 20s because, again, I grew up Mormon, and these stories from the time I first started to write at 14, I'm like, I'm remembering this. How can that be? And it was as real to me as the life I was living, in some ways, even more so. And I'm like, well, this is a problem because I'm Mormon and Mormons don't believe in reincarnation.
Right.
So what do I do with this? That was the elephant in my room at 14 years old. And so I'm like, okay. So I was just a weird little kid. I would write at night alone in my room, and I would hide the pages in my room. And my parents and my siblings and stuff would be, what the hell are you doing in there? You don't have any friends. You're in there all the time alone. What are you doing? And I was like, nothing. I don't remember what I told them I was doing, but I was writing my little face off, and it was like, I can't tell any of them about it. And then a couple people I did tell, they were like, oh, you have a great imagination. And I was like, well, that's wrong. Cause no, I don't. This is just coming. I'm just remembering this and I'm just writing it down as fast as I can go. So it didn't feel like there was anything I could say to the world that would feel true. I couldn't speak to what I knew it was to anyone. So I didn't talk about it. Like I said, I was probably in my 20s before I ever said anything, and probably 21 or 22 before I let anyone even read even a page of what I'd written. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing that we are artists. I think also are very sensitive people.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what I mean? And it means your whole world. So when you share it or express it with someone else, it's just like putting like a raw freaking heart sitting there, just waiting for somebody to just stab it. You know what I mean? And it's taken age. I don't think, these artists that achieve some level of fame or notoriety at a young age, I am so grateful that did not happen. I mean, it rarely happens with writers anyway. That's more the musicians and the actors. But, I am so grateful, Chaz, that because I wouldn't have been able to handle it if it had if it had happened when I was younger. It was, there's no way. Too sensitive, too raw, you know what I mean, to be able to take any kind of coming at you, Yeah,
that's the thing. Well, my biggest takeaway of college, because I went for film, and there's that whole conversation is like, film school worth it, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
There's pros and cons to it, whatever. I'm not gonna dive into that, but one of my greatest takeaways of it is it kind of taught you how to constructively critique stuff and how to
take it,
and also like when you analyze stuff like writings or films or art as a whole, it's deconstructing the process and then reconstructing it so you understand why certain stuff were made, and like or like a choice was made or whatever. And then reconfiguring it so that way you could appreciate it. I mean, that's basically what that is. And so, like, there's a book called Bird by Bird, where
Bird by Bird.
It's by Anne Lamont, I think. It's really good, but she talks about shitty first drafts and how no first draft is ever perfect, and they'll always be shitty. And if it's not shitty, chances are you're lying to yourself.
Nice.
Basically what it was.
In other words, just give yourself a break. Just don't expect your first draft is supposed to be terrible. Yeah. Yeah.
And like even right now, I'm trying to schedule a table read for a shitty first draft that I finished like a few months ago of a script. I'm like, cool. I gotta get the criticism, like stab me. Like I literally poke me with everything you got, That way I could cry myself to sleep and then have these realizations of like, oh yeah, they had a point. You know what I mean? It's like dying and then having rebirth. It's like the Matrix, like totally re-waking up.
No, it's so true. It's like, here's the little thing. be kind, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's a good practice in detachment again, you know what I mean? It's not like, but it is a very personal thing, but at the same time, to them, it's not their baby. So what they say, it's, it's all right to take it and get from it what may be valid and helpful and useful, you know what I mean? And go with that from someone who's not didn't buy all the horses in the race, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, because we know, as writers, like, we know every single detail. Like, even if the words don't give enough detail, we know exactly what detail is there. Like when we wrote it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've made that mistake so much. I see it and then I forget to describe it because I already see it and I think it's obvious. So feedback on that is like, oh, did I not say that? Was that not obvious?
Yeah. I'm like, is it implied? And they're like, you can't imply this. I'm like, well, I implied it myself, so technically it is implied. Plus, and another thing to take into consideration with screenwriting is, like, if you're directing it as well, I think you have more leeway. But if you're writing it to get bought,
for someone else,
then that's when you could run into those issues. But I'm kind of, I don't know. I don't like writing for other people. Like you said, like, if I write something, I kind of want to do it myself. Like, the end result is for me to actually bring that to life,
Right. Yep. You want to direct it. And I have noticed that too. Speaking of different ways of writing screenplays. Yeah. I write it one way if I know that either me or like Shane is going to be directing it, but another way if it's something that we're going to sell or try to sell, right. You know what I mean? Then it needs to kind of be, I'll put in, the parentheses and, there's all the things they say to do and to not do if you're trying to sell it. So yeah, it's definitely another thing in the editing process to go back through and be, okay, what's the audience going to be for this thing? So
yeah, I'm like, no screenplay is perfect either. And you can have too much in it and you could film it still. And then when you're editing, you'll realize that, oh, this doesn't fit. And like the final theatrical cut or whatever, like the final cut of the movie, is the final draft. It's like every single step is a working draft. And being a perfectionist, that's hard because I'm sure writing prose, once it's published, that's the final draft. Like, you don't have the room, you don't have the luxury of seeing if it will work or not in post.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, I don't even want to look at it again. The publisher, he's like, okay, here we go. Do I take one last look at it? And I was like, no, I don't, because I can literally edit this thing forever because I have for 30 years. Every time I open it to a page, I can rearrange a sentence again. And I've done that millions of times. So I'm like, nope, don't even want to look at it. Just send it. It's gone. It's out of the house. And so that's, but with film, I think that's really good to keep in mind so you don't get too
caught up in it.
Yeah. That you're like, every step of the process is a new edit. Which it literally is. And what you started out with it, when you're the one that's the visualizer, that's another hard thing to learn to let go of, is what you visualized in your head that it will look like versus what it actually looks like. And you're like, okay, I got to learn to live with that now. So
it's such a collaborative process too. It's learning how to work well with others. Whereas I don't know if you can attest to this, but like, I'm sure like being published like in a novel and stuff, like you're the one working the hardest on it. And then the publisher is just editing it and making recommendations, right? Is that how it goes? Or
yeah. Well, and thank goodness with this one, no, because I've had that happen before. That little snippet I said that this publisher did not ask me to cut out 250 pages. I had another, it was more of a self-publishing thing, but they said, this is too long. The world is ADD. You got to cut out 250 pages. It took me like a year to cut out that 250 pages and 2 years to put them all back in again. It's like, this huge woven rug and you're just pulling out a few threads here and there and the whole thing's getting all bunched up. And I was like, you know what? I hate this now. And you suck. I'm out. And I put the 250 pages back in. And I'm like, you know what? I guess if they never make it through the first 80 pages, then they'll miss all the awesome crap that happens. in the last 600, you know what I mean? And, but yeah, I've been there, but I've been there before, but it's working on film has definitely been interesting because as a writer, as you know, I'm the first, middle, and pretty much the final say. I mean, the cover with the publisher was more his. Yeah, I mean, he was sweet, really kind, being a small publishing company, and did ask me, what I thought of the cover and stuff. But for the most part, it's, a singular, solitary endeavor, which is great. And so, yeah, moving over and doing some films and being collaborative is, there's always something to learn.
Just a different mindset. Everybody's it's so fascinating because like all artists kind of connect, like they can totally relate, but like the way they relate and the way their craft applies to everything is totally different. Like, it's never the same for anybody.
Every day is just a brand new adventure and learning how to get along.
Oh my god, it really is.
Oh my gosh.
What's the first book you remember reading? Like, what's a book that kind of got you more into wanting to write stories?
What's crazy? Tolstoy, believe it or not, War and Peace, loved it. Les Miserables, and then of course Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, man. And it was so funny because no one in my family, I'm the baby of the family, no one in my family was reading those books. I don't know where I found them. I've always been the purple sheep, the little weirdo in my family. And somehow I found those books all on my own and was reading these huge tomes and just blown away. You know what I mean? Shadowfax. I'm like, oh, that's the most amazing thing. You know what I mean? Just boom, there in that world. Lord of the Rings. Yeah, just blew me away, changed my world, changed but those big books. And I really loved The Count of Monte Cristo and just those old classics, really. And, honestly, that was probably the last time I really just read. Because since then, any time I have is going to be devoted to writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, if I could be a kid again, I would be reading as much as I would be writing. But as an adult, having to pay the bills, now my reading time has gone more to working to pay the bills, and my time that would be reading is, spent in writing. But that's the curse. Those big books, that is the curse, isn't it? I know. I mean, I do read as an adult. I do have books that I love, but those were the ones of my kidhood with those big old books. Yeah, I just loved them. So funny.
When I remember, Harry Potter was the thing in elementary for me. Like they were, I think when I was in 6th grade is when they released the last book. Like,
isn't Harry Potter like the Lord of the Rings for your generation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This like mystical, magical, take you into the world and just into that world and just swallow you up. Amazing. Yeah.
It is. And like, I remember that and Aragon, which is like a, another fantasy novel. But
I have read all the Aragons. Love them.
Yeah, but the older Aragon, the more you realize it's just a direct ripoff of Lord of the Rings.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But they were great for like, getting you into reading.
Yeah.
But I mean, reading those back in that day, like I remember falling asleep reading a book, like literally falling asleep reading a book and waking up at like, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
It's so beautiful.
With my light still on and a page is kind of crooked because.
Oh, I love that.
I know. And I miss being that invested into that stuff because now I'm just like, I don't know. I like sleep. So like if I could sleep, I'll sleep.
Oh yeah, I know. See, it's the thing of the damn like job that, the paying the bills. You're so freaking tired that, yeah, I want to pick up a book at night and I'm like, oh, same. Sleep. I love sleep. I got to have more and more. So chunk out. Yeah, it's hard.
It's very hard. Speaking of dreams, so because I know you kind of touched on this because you said you got some inspirations from dreams, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think dreams are wild. They're fun.
They're amazing, aren't they? They're amazing. I heard a thing the other day. They're like, if you wake up and you remember a dream, it wasn't a dream. I was like, whoa, that's so cool. Oh man, we put this body to sleep and our consciousness is just off. You know what I mean?
Doesn't it feel like that though? Because like you could go to bed and have a full 8 to 9 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Have the most vivid dream ever, like whatever. Yep. Wake up and still feel exhausted, like if you were essentially traveling or whatever. You're just like,
what was I doing?
Yeah, I should be here fully conscious because I got the full recommended hours, but so that's why we drink coffee. Coffee is a savior.
That's why. Oh God, thank you. Whoever took milk, or now oat milk, my new favorite thing, and a coffee bean and smashed them together. God bless that person's heart, because that is the most beautiful thing that has ever been invented. So good.
It's like the holy trinity is water, coffee, and I guess wine if you drink. If not, then
there you go. Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh man, all the beautiful beverages that get us through our every day. Yeah. It's for sure.
And I've had this argument at my job where they're having a contest to see who can intake the most water, like daily, right? Like you have to meet,
right?
Whatever.
You're like, okay, fine, but I'm peeing. It's like a smoke break now. I'm going to be peeing every hour now.
Right. When I got in the argument, I'm like, well, does coffee count? And they're like, coffee doesn't count, but coffee's primarily water with just
it's mostly water, dude. It's
caffeine.
Like,
so I had
water.
Yeah, and so I had to go through like scientific websites, proving that coffee does indeed count as water intake to some extent.
That is great, dude. At Deer Valley, I worked with a bunch of Australians back in the day, and I was like, I never see you drink water. What? And they're like, I get all the water I need from beer. What? Beautiful. All right. I am not arguing with you. We're done. That's great. Perfect. You stick with it, man. I'll hand you another pint.
Have you ever home brewed?
So funny. I never have. I was going to do kombucha for a while, do the little kombucha, the little mother, you know what I mean? Mushroom, and never did. Have you brewed your own?
Beer? Yeah. Me and my, me and my dad will do that.
Oh my heck.
It uses a lot of water. I mean, it's like 5 gallons of water that you have to boil.
Like, see? Water.
Yeah, no, seriously. Then you have to let, the grains kind of like soak in them.
Yeah.
And then you take it out and add sugar and boiling water. And it's a whole lot. Like, I mean, you got to let it ferment yeast. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my heck. Dude, that's so cool. Hey, you should check it out. Ritual. I don't know if you've heard of Ritual Coffee. Ritual. They're actually a chocolatier. They have the huge chocolate making machines up in Heber, and then another shop. But anyway, they actually go down and source the the chocolate, the cacao, and bring it up. They made their first ever, it took 3 tries, their first ever beer chocolate. And you can taste the fermentation. Like, they gave me a try and I could feel the beer, like the yeast, like in the back of my mouth. It was crazy. I don't know if it's been done. But anyway, so if you ever make it up into Heber City or Midway, check out Ritual Chocolate, because they actually are working on a beer bar. And then the brewing company up here is going to make like a chocolate beer. So they're trading.
I'm trying to.
Is it so
like 70% or?
Oh crap! I don't know. I need to ask him, because I was just talking to him at the Ritual Chocolate, where they have the machines and stuff the other day. It was so funny.
I'm gonna look more into this. That sounds good.
You can get your beer and your chocolate once they get it going, because they just made the 3rd batch, and they're thinking it's working. So anyway, pretty funny.
It's amazing what you can do with cooking.
Yes, it is. Oh boy, cooking and brewing. You and your dad there.
Yeah, no, it's fun. He originally got me a craft set for Christmas.
You start running moonshine.
Have you had moonshine?
It's good. Never have. No.
It's
oh my God, dangerous. I can't imagine even. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, it's fun. No, so back when, like, early 20s, I was like, hell yeah. But now it's like, I don't even drink beer often anymore.
Yeah.
And now on weekends, I'm like, I think I'll go to sleep.
Yeah. See, again, with the sleeping, I'm telling you, it is a prime commodity.
It is.
And gotta have it.
Well, and like the more, I don't know, the older I get, like the hangovers are worse too. Like, I'll push myself a little bit too far and like, but 3 years, 4 years ago, I could do it.
You're like, oh, this is what getting older is like.
Yeah. And just my back cracking randomly. I'm like, ooh. But
oh yeah, yep. Oh yeah, everything. they don't tell you because I think they don't want to ruin your life early. They're like, they'll figure it out.
They'll wake up one morning and be like, why can't I fucking move?
Yep. Every decade is a whole fresh new thing, just a bunch of more shit that just goes wrong. And then nobody tells you about until it starts happening to you. And they're like, oh yeah, that's normal. Don't worry about it. And you're like, great. Thanks for the memo.
Yeah. It's like, this would have been nice to know. On that. Like, I don't know, like, if we choose this life and we're signing up for all this stuff, are we like, yeah, when I turn, I don't know, late 20s, give me a bad fucking back. Let's see how this goes.
Right. Exactly. Let's have both knees go out. Let's see what kind of growth I can achieve out of that magnificent,
early arthritis in a wrist. Let's do it.
let's do it. Sign me up, man. I'm brave. I'm bold. That's what you said. My buddy and I were like about, coming down here and deciding to be here and be an earthling.
Yeah.
And we just conceded that we thought it was a good idea at the time. Then we decided, because now that we're down here, we're like, freaking stupid. So dumb. We're never doing that again. So.
But here's the thing. I mean, I feel like, well, I mean, we often joke like, I'm never coming back to Earth because it's such a shit show and like whatever. But right. I feel like after death, it'd be like, yo, sign me up again.
Dude, because clearly we're the adventurers. You know what I mean? We're like, get me the big challenge. Hell yeah, I'm up for it. Get your plate and just put all the shit on it. Put the bad back on there. Put the whatever. Just put all the crap on there. And you're like, yeah, I can handle it. Let's go. I don't want to be bored.
No, seriously. And like, I mean, here's the thing too. So like, dreams, like when you're in a dream state, I mean, it happens so quick, right? You're just like, you
boom, there.
Fall asleep, then all of a sudden you're dreaming, and then next thing you know, you're waking up. I mean, it literally feels like with like 2 minutes max, right?
Yeah.
And if the dream world is indeed anything like, after death or whatever, then time is obviously a lot different. And so 80 years physically here or whatever is literally not that long afterward. And so like, it seems like it's no hassle afterward, I guess.
Which is why we decide to do it again. Exactly. Because it's like after the fact, you're like, oh, that was nothing, man. Yeah, sure. Let's do it again. That was like 5 minutes.
It's just the waking up part. That's a nightmare,
Yes, exactly.
The real nightmare is real life itself.
Yes, exactly. My gosh, so true. Back a long time ago, a friend was like, you got to go to this lady. She was a channeler.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, that sounds pretty crazy. That sounds cool. Let's do it. And during that, hey, it says May 5th, 555 right now.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It was so funny because in there, one of the guides that, she had channeled for me said, it may seem like a very long time to you, but it's actually just a short while from exactly what you just said, which is probably why we do decide to do it again and again and again and again. Because once we get over there, it was just like a dream, like there's really no dream that I've ever had, even the scary ones, well, maybe a couple, that I wouldn't be like, well, yeah, sure, I do it again because I woke up from it,
No, exactly.
It didn't last very long. So yeah, sure, why not? I'll do it again.
Have you seen the movie? I think it's called I Origin.
I Origin?
Yeah.
Why does it sound so familiar?
It came out in 2011, maybe.
It sounds so familiar, but I'm not like, okay, no, I don't think so, but it does sound familiar.
Should check
Did I see it?
out.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll check it out. I Origin. Okay.
Yep, I think it's just I, like, letter I, comma,
okay,
origin.
I, and then origin. I will check it out.
It's pretty, I don't know. There's a lot of elevated film. Here's the thing too. Okay. So going back to like ideas and like writing and stuff, right? Yeah. So if we look at sci-fi now compared to sci-fi then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sci-fi then we thought was like so mind-blowing, but then sci-fi now we have movies like Interstellar and Arrival and like all this stuff that's like high fucking concepts, or like
big ideas. Yeah.
And now it's playing with time and communication through time and like how time is really not relevant. And it's just like,
yep.
What the motherfucker, right? Like, it's just what?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, both. Oh my, yeah. I don't know. I feel like storytellers evolve. Times are evolving, and I'm excited to see. Like, I mean, your story. You give me the synopsis. I'm really intrigued by it because it seems like it's one of those steps to evolve storytelling, where it's playing with a lot of different stuff that, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, nobody would know what to make that of, like, but now it's just like, as long as somebody could grasp it, like the faintest grasp of it is a step toward progress and success in life, like.
Oh no, that's so, I just delicious. I love everything you just said. Yeah. No, the world is ready, I think more ready than it's ever been for these kinds of, of like high concepts, big concepts, really delving into the nature of the universe and of life and the potential that we have. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's fun. It's an exciting time, dude. It really, really is an exciting time. It's fun. And artists have always been, they have to be ahead of their time, right? Yep. Because there needs to be a blueprint or a template laid down etherically, on the quantum level, I guess, for the material world, the physical world to lay over. And artists have always been in the ether, laying that blueprint down first. And then the rest of the wave comes in and fills it in. So
it's true. I mean, because like in all the biggest art movements, like the Renaissance and the classical period, and like all this stuff in all different fields, like it always sets the groundwork, like you said, the groundwork. Yeah. But it's just, it's fascinating because like 2001 Space Odyssey was like, it's very, Kubrick is very high concept just as a guy as a whole. Like he's really experimental with filmmaking.
Yeah.
But I feel like artists are meant to inspire others. But most importantly, if they don't inspire themselves, then they're not succeeding. I mean, if you have to inspire yourself before you can inspire others, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so with these movies now and with these books and with like these paintings, like whatever's being created, like these creations, right?
Yep.
It literally, like, I don't know what to expect in the next 10, 20 years. Like it's going to be fucking groundbreaking and it's exciting. It could be anybody. It could be somebody we know. It could be you. It could be me. It could be literally fucking anybody.
Yeah.
And we don't realize that now. And it's like these like, I mean, for example, like with Arrival and Interstellar, like I wonder if the writers and filmmakers actually understand what's being presented. Like they're like, oh, this is such a cool concept. Like this is fun. But it's like, okay, but like pull past that curtain. Like, what are you actually like revealing? It's,
oh my God. I have wondered that so many times. Like with Star Wars and Avatar, I'm like, this is not, I don't think this is just like some fantastical story. I think this speaks to a truth that is so big, you know what I mean? That the only way they can put it out there is with this mask of fiction or fantasy or whatever. But I think that it all speaks to a truth on a level that we are going to, that we are getting ready to move into. Oh yeah. And it's, oh geez. I mean, we're like on the third density, the third level of frequency, and there's, possibly infinite, but we know at least 12, and we are just scratching the surface. But these movies are art is slowly laying the groundwork of what's actual reality outside of our little 3D bubble entails. You know what I mean? And yeah, the artists are pushing through that bubble and saying, this is what's on the other side. Are you ready? You know what I mean? Let's go. Yeah.
I mean,
oh, cool.
Like with Interstellar, they introduced the fifth dimension for a tesseract, and like the time's not existent there. And so I don't know. And it's always interesting to read the criticisms, being like, this is too high concept. I don't understand it. And I'm like, of course you fucking wouldn't. Like, you gotta, be open to it. If you're not being open to it and you're judging it right off the back, then that's your issue.
You know what? I went on a tantrum the other day. I'm like, you know what? No, I refuse to dumb down for the lowest common denominator. That is not my fucking job here, to appeal to everyone and to the masses. No, I am trying to push into a greater reality. You know what I mean? Like circles outside of circles outside of circles. I am not here to just pander to, what everyone can comprehend. No, we have enough of that. We have the Kardashians, for hell's sakes. You know what I mean? Right? Fuck that. I am not going to spend my time on that. No, I'm going to do, and if it's like beyond, what somebody can understand, well, then I did my job right, because it's an artist's job to be out in front. And I know that sounds kind of arrogant, I guess, you know what I mean, or conceited, but I'm like, no, I want to do what I want to do to the best of my ability. And that does not mean stripping what I know down and pretending like I don't know it and pretending like I'm dumber. You know what I mean? And and I know the more I know, the less I know.
Right.
But I'm not going to pretend like I know less than I actually do.
Right. I'm going
to talk about Merkabas and Tesseracts and its freaking 12th dimension, and that time does not exist. And it's just something that we put around so that, what was that Einstein said, so that everything doesn't happen all at once. He may not have even said that, but yeah.
Like the multiverse exciting. Theory, like multiple U's, not even like your same body, but like some sort, I don't know. It goes deep and it's fun to think about. And I don't know. It might, like you said, it might come off as arrogant, but like also as artists, we create for certain for a certain audience.
Mm-hmm.
And so hypothetically, technically you're not being arrogant because you are writing, you're creating for an audience who will get it.
Yeah.
And it's up to them to spread the word,
spread the word. Yep.
It's not arrogant. It's just like you create write what you know, tell what you know, show what you know,
Show what you know. Beautiful. Yes to that. That was great. You should write that down, buddy, unless you already did.
I know I suck at writing stuff down. I'm like, there's like times where I'm like, God, what the fuck did I say a couple weeks? And there's like, I don't know, when I get talking with friends, like I'll just go on random tangents or quid bits or whatever, and I'll say like these like the most obscene phrase or whatever, and it makes them laugh. You're like, oh, that's funny. I'm like, yeah, that's funny, whatever. I don't think of it, and then I'm writing and I'm like, fuck, what did I say? Like, that'd be great for this.
What was it? Well, see, at least on these it's recorded, so if you have the time to go back through and be like, what was that? At least I have that recorded so I could write it down.
Exactly. I want to ask something real quick about your book. What kind of themes does it touch on?
It touches on, I think probably first and foremost, the hero's journey through both of the brothers. Wing and Nien are brothers. It's about staying true to yourself despite what other people expect you to be or to do. On a deep level, it's about building a new world. And I realized it was only in that perspective that you talked about looking back. I realized all the lives and other worlds that I remembered are ones that are going through the same thing that Earth is going through right now, which is this huge transition of literally like birthing a new world, bringing in a new consciousness into that space. And so Wing and Nien is like that. Wing it's a very isolated race. Only one book is read. Only one God is worshipped. Nobody leaves their Valley of Raiv. Nobody comes in. And Wing is that catalyst. He knows he's kind of different. He's not sure how or exactly how it'll all unfold. But he knows that he's a catalyst for rooting a new potential of a higher consciousness into his world. And almost despite himself, he does achieve that mission. And then his brother Nien is a big part of that. They're kind of like what you would consider maybe a soul contract. Before they were born, they agreed that kind of part of the same soul pod that they would meet and that they would, fulfill this, this like mission, this goal together. But it's about building a new world, creating a new world, into, just an expansion, not to, be too minty about it, but an expansion of consciousness. Yeah.
Sounds fun.
I'm so excited.
Because just hearing about it and just reading the synopsis, the first thing that came to mind was like Cloud Atlas, where it's going to tackle a lot of like huge stuff, right? Yeah. But then hearing that where they live in a society that's kind of cut off, have you seen or have you read The Giver?
I have not, but I've heard of it. I keep thinking that, it's one of those that I want to.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for you.
Oh, cool.
You should feel proud. I mean, I don't know anybody who, okay, maybe I do. I just don't pay attention. Being published, I mean, I think it's a huge thing. I'm not published at all. One day I would like to be eventually, maybe. Who knows, right? Where life's going to take you. But I think it's exciting that you tackled that and you worked hard at it. And now look where you are,
Yeah. It's exciting. Yeah, finally. And like I said, and I'm not even dead yet, which is, I thought most everything was just going to come out posthumously the way it was going. So I'm glad to say that is not the case.
Well, let's not jinx it. I mean, it's not May 11th yet.
Yeah, it's not the 11th yet. Hold on.
Knock on wood.
Well, if I'm gone, just read it, Chaz, and then I'll peep in the dream state and go, yes, buddy. You made it through the first 80 pages. Now the rest of it's going to be a breeze.
I don't know. I'm excited for you. I'm going to check it out, and I think everybody else should. I want to start wrapping this up just real quick. So I just want to end this on 2 questions for you. Number 1, how do you hope you can inspire others?
Through my writing. I really do. That's always been. That is an amazing, such a good question. And it is absolutely through my writing. I felt that since I was probably 16 years old, and Wing and Nien fell out in this story. And I just, even back then as a little 16-year-old, I envisioned it going out into the world and people being able to relate to Wing and Nien's trials, their sadness, their journey, their losses and triumphs. Even back then, I imagined that it would somehow be out in the world and people would read it and they would be able to connect and relate with that. Maybe some people would relate more with Nien, maybe some people would relate more with Wing, but that their story would have an impact somehow on the world.
That's so fun. I just love characters that like you get so connected to,
Yeah.
Especially like when you're writing a horror script and somebody has to die. It's oddly satisfying writing some demises, You're
like, and you are off to the next.
Like this sounds so sociopathic and maybe psychopathic, but like just like feeling their fear and anxiety and like dying in the most grotesque way, but feeling the excitement from the other person. It's just, I don't know. It's exhilarating hilarious. Writing these scenes.
That's so funny. I'm sure you and J.R. Curtis just talked about that so much. His stories. I'm like, dude, I can't read it. I can't read past like page 30. And he's, I'm like, I told you a long time ago. It was so funny. I'm like, great script, great writing up until page 30. And then I'm tapping out.
You're like, nope.
So that's funny. That's probably exactly you two and your macabre. Oh, so funny.
Well, he sent me, was it Satanico? His short film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's one scene in there where I fucking jumped. And I was like, dude, God damn it. You got me.
Oh, that was so funny. That was a cold shoot. Oh my gosh, that was funny.
And I think we read one of his scripts once as a table read, and I remember just thinking like, dude, that's fucked. Like that's like a cool fucked, but like that's
messed
fucked.
Up. I know. That's why I told him, I'm like, I can't read them anymore.
And like when I say it's fucked, that's not a criticism.
Like in a good way.
I'm like, dude, that's fucked. Like,
well, we were reading the script the other night, and he was like, too much, and Shane's like, Oh man, but he is very sweet, very, very open to critiquing. So
no, I love JR.
Funny.
He was fun to have on the podcast. I think he was episode 10. He's actually the first one that I did Zoom with.
Oh really? Oh, when you start being able to do it in person. Oh
yeah, he was the first one that I tried Zoom out with, and so the whole intro is different with his, and like the sound's different just because I didn't know what the workflow is going to be. But no, that's a fun episode.
Oh, that's great.
Right. And then finally, what's one piece of advice that has stuck to you throughout the years, and how do you apply it?
Be true to that thing you have inside of you, no matter what anybody else says. The experts, the people who have written books on it, your parents, your friends. Just if there is something inside of you that you know is true for you, and even if no one else and nothing in the world validates that, they don't have to, because that's your soul and that's your purpose and that's your mission, and you will always be supported in that, no matter what any external circumstance or or person or advice or whatever comes at you. That is your divine seed, and it is yours, and it can never be taken away. And if you water that little sucker, it will bear fruit eventually.
Just water it, nurture it, love it, appreciate it.
Just keep loving it, man. Just keep loving it.
Be frustrated by it. Be enamored by it.
Oh yeah, the blessing and the curse, right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think I love that, because I mean, I've had this thought too, is like our bodies know. Let's see. I don't know how to phrase that. I don't know. We'll talk off camera about that.
I already know where you're going. Your body knows. Your mind will fuck you up.
Your mind will fuck you up, and like
your body knows.
Your body knows.
Intelligence knows. Oh,
yeah, and I don't know. I mean, if we're going into like the whole soul thing, like if these are indeed just vessels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your body's coexisting on a third dimension, you kind of have to know it and communicate with it, and still love it, because it's coexisting. Like, I mean, I swear to God, there's some people who are just on auto drive where like I don't know how they've made it this far, because there's just like I like to call them mouth breathers in the store. Like they're so on auto drive.
Yeah, like, it's like
anybody home,
hello.
But
I know, walking so unconsciously through life, it's yep.
More power to them, I guess.
Well, yeah, exactly. That goes back to that whole. I am going to try and respect where you are at. Peace be with you, and we shall all proceed on our separate paths. Yeah.
See you another time, maybe.
See you in the next dream.
Pretty much.
See you in the next dream.
I love it. Well, where can people find your book? Where it's going to be released May 5th or 11th, correct?
Yeah, May 11th. So ShyteiCorellian.com. I know spelling that is going to be a party.
Well, it'll be in the show notes too. So
thank you so much. That's the biggest problem. So ShyteiCorellian.com is the publisher's website. Also on Facebook, and probably wouldn't try Twitter because I just barely started an author thing there, but Instagram, Shytei Corellian author, Shytei Corellian author on Facebook, and also Shytei.com. But for the book, the best one is probably ShyteiCorellian.com, and they'll take you right to the publisher's website and the order button.
Order it.
Order
it. Do it now.
Do it now.
Well, you can follow the podcast on everything, I guess. This is fun. It's good to be back. I haven't posted an episode.
Please follow the podcast. I have already done that. I think everywhere I found it, I did the follow. So thank you, Chaz, so much for having me. This has been so much fun to talk about the things that like mean the most. Oh my gosh. It's just so enriching. It just puts me on a high for days. I love it.
No, thank you for being on. It's my honor to have you on. So thank you. Question real quick. This is a really side topic. Your tattoo in your hand. When was that done?
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
The light is moving in the room that it's probably impossible to see. It is a star field. So I started out with the Star Wars, and then I got the dragon, and then there was another artist put a star field, a nebula in between the two. So
that is Star Wars. I didn't even notice that.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, it started out with the Star Wars, and then the artist was great. He wove the star field through the Star Wars, and then through the dragon, which really looks more like a seahorse. Whatever. That's why I have the big ring. No, that's not why I have the big ring. The ring is just one more thing that I love. Oh man. Yeah. That's do you have tattoos?
Fun. Do I have one tattoo. I can boom.
Where is that? So dude, no way. That's amazing. Yes, the freaking octopods. Yes, the octopod language. What the hell? The Arrival. No.
Yes. I mean, it's Arrival. Yeah.
Arrival. Yeah. Such a good movie. Oh my God. When I saw that, I was just, anything ET related, anything, as long as it's good and not stupid, like, they come in to kill us. Yeah, that was amazing. That is a beautiful tattoo. You're the first one I've seen with that.
I actually got it at a tattoo convention a year-ish ago.
Yeah.
Right before COVID hit. It was at a tattoo convention in like West Valley.
That is so cool. Do you remember? So which, can you tell me? If it's personal, you don't have to.
No.
What the symbol means?
Yeah,
which one that was?
So it's Luis's name, the main character. It's when she says Luis and like it does its little thing.
And he does.
I love her character so much in that, and Amy Adams got snubbed from an Oscar, so that's my feelings on it.
Yeah, boo. She was so good.
Yeah, but it's also my favorite filmmaker, Denis Villeneuve. He's done a lot of incredible stuff. So there's a lot of fun stuff with this.
There's a lot of, when you get, because people are like, dude, tattoos, you get, and I'm like, I would never tell anyone to get a tattoo unless they know that that's what they want. You know, I've never thought of a tattoo just because I need to get a tattoo. It's like, I know what I want. Boom. And I, see it and I go, that is so rad, dude. I love that.
Well, my next one, I want to get an interstellar related one, like the Endurance ship, and because they speak Morse code in that movie. And they don't speak Morse code. Morse code's a huge thing in that movie, though. With him communicating with his daughter in the past.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my
God, such a good movie. Oh my gosh, so good. Don't you want to make movies like that?
Fuck yes, I do.
I want to make movies like that so bad, dude.
One day.
Big epic movies. Okay, yeah. Well, one day, dude, we'll get there.
But as I'm talking about, they're so elevated. Well, eventually, there's gonna be stuff elevated past that, and I don't know how. Really, I feel like we're at the peak right now, but I'm definitely fanboying. So anyway,
so good.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so
Check
much.
out her book, and and I guess that's it. So,
dude,
I'll see you around.
Till next time. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.